Hello. Right. Now that that's all set up. Excellent. Yep, got both of them. Mm-hmm. Alright. That was just before I started making the arm. Which is gonna be a little bit tricky, but ultimately not too much so. Thank you, Demon Fox Akira. Hello, Yara. Yara? Did I say Hara? Yara? I am doing quite well. How are you doing? Now, if only the zoom-in function on Blender wasn't quite so restrictive at times, that would be great. Everything okay? Okay. Hmm. Oh. And I got a fan bumping into me. Cutiefox says really smacks autocorrect. Crap. As you do. So yeah, as you have no doubt noticed by the fact that this model matches absolutely nothing on what's on the page currently, that we're going off the beaten track on this one, so I'm really basing a lot of this on my knowledge of human anatomy, which, to be frank, isn't the best. Oh, thank you. I appreciate it. Thanks, Big Sis. Betty Noir says hello. Hi, Betty Noir. Welcome. Cutiefox says, I only 3 Pepsis I yoinked. Opens a cherry Pepsi. Okay, 4. Oh, correct. Cutiefox says, hey there. Hi. How's everyone doing? Cutiefox says, and it trolled me yet again. Still got the Pepsi. So there. Autocorrect, autocorrect is terrible, Betty Noir. So yeah, this arm is looking a little bit worse for wear. Oops. That is not something I meant to do. Scale Shift X. Make it a little thicker. And it does not look nice. Okay. Betty Nora says, either I try Learn Blender or I can farm potatoes for the next 1.5 hours. What should I do? And I'm picking whatever the first message is. Demon Foxy Care says, no regrets. Besides, we get to spend time with Cutiefox here. I can roll with it. It's all good. It's a process. Boop. She got arms. For hugging. It's not the best model in the world, certainly not in terms of topology, but so far, it works. Arms basically are kind of small. Proportional arms, proportional hands, and feet have got to be some of the hardest things to work on ever in any art form. But so far, that's looking to be a good arm. However, I will say, this middle bit right here should probably be rotated on the x-axis. Wrong way. The proportions of it should definitely be rotated though. About minus 90 degrees. Which is alright. It just means that Jeremy Curtis says, what's going on? Betty Nora says, Blender it is, I guess. Yara says, which part of the process is your favorite? Okay, so to answer Jeremy Curtis's question first, I am currently making my own personalized model in Blender, a modeling program that I have been using for the past couple of, well, for the past year now. And to answer Yara's question of which part of the process is my favorite, most of it is awesome to work with. I personally like the modeling aspect of things. Making things move is a bit challenging, but I really do like doing that too. Demon Fox Akira, yeah. She's making a new model. That too, yeah. Jeremy Curtis, says, new model, huh? For what? Nice. Basically because I can, and because I want to make an animated short sometime this year, and in order to do that, I gotta have characters for it, so I'm getting started with this one. She doesn't have an official name as of yet. So that's definitely something that we can come together on that one, if you so wish. We could definitely try to figure out a name for this character. Then we scale all 3 of these rings on the y-axis so that it's flattened a little bit. Woo woo woo. Then we pull this one in, and this one out. Which looks kind of like what we're going for here, except probably scale that down a little. Nice. Demon Fox Akira says, I know it'll be amazing once she's done. She will be. Jeremy Curtis, well, any idea what she's gonna be in? Not sure yet. But I definitely do want to do stuff with her. Want to put her in several different forms of animations. And eventually, I definitely do want to have the ASMR videos narrated with having a character like this doing the lip sync to the anime, to the voice acting, I should say. So it's supposed to bend from this joint here, which should be more inset to the torso area. So it's supposed to bend from here, so I'm visualizing where it's gonna end up, this elbow part. And I'm realizing that this elbow part... I'm looking at my own arm as a visual reference. My arms are a bit thin and lanky. And I'm kind of basing this off of my own anatomy. For the most part. Yara says, that would be nice. Nice, I think so too. Penny Noir says, I do not know what I'm doing. I didn't either when I first started out. I had tutors and mentors for about 3 years in college when I was first learning this stuff, so I guess I got started off on a more privileged route, I guess. I also nearly I did fall asleep a good couple of times while I was in class, so there's a lot of stuff that I didn't learn. And again, I'm not the best at this. Demon Fox Akira says, I wonder if she'll be as adorable and animated as the original. Oh, It really does depend on whether or not I can succeed at, well, doing that. Which I might not be. There are definitely 3D modelers and animators out there that are more skilled than I am. And honestly, I do look up to them in terms of modeling skill. And I hope to one day have a similar set of skills. And this is the wrist area, or at least this is gonna be the wrist area, so we're just gonna start moving these down to this area here. And the goal of the wrist is to bend and stuff, so that's the reason we have a cluster of vertices here. It's so that the mesh doesn't deform too much when it bends. Beniour says, well, you have more than a rectangle right now. Yeah. It all started from a rectangle, though. It started from the rectangle in the foot, which is why there's an orange dot here. That's the origin for the model. And I just sort of extruded everything. And placed all the vertices here. And it all started out pretty much as a box, and I just sort of chipped away at it. Jeremy Curtis says you'll get there. I hope I will. I certainly am not. I am looking forward a little bit to modeling the head again. At the same time, it's gonna be challenging. And I don't know if I'm gonna have too much patience for it. Dion Fox Akira says, nah, I think you'll succeed. Scratch that, I know you will. Your faith is moving. I hope to be worthy of it. Gotta turn off those references for just a second so I could just go around the model and look at it and see what I want to do with it. I definitely do want to model this so that it's more realistic. Although other than that, it probably won't be seen that much anyways, so it's mostly for proportion's sakes. I definitely plan on moving some of these vertices more towards the center of the mesh. And perhaps moving them forward to give it a more, well, for lack of a better term, a flatter area so that I could start working on the bust. Yeah, and working on the bust is going to be interesting in and of itself because, again, I have no idea what I'm doing. And I definitely do think that I'm gonna have to move the arm itself, all of this, into the mesh itself, because this is gonna be like the shoulder, and the shoulder's gotta be here, and these vertices that are currently lined up as such, I definitely plan on moving more towards the center here so that it's got a bit more of a profile that I can work with. Over here, yeah, much the same for the upper torso, just moving this line of vertices more towards the center. And it's, again, it's just visualizing where I want everything to go. And before we move on, we're gonna put these vertices more towards the front. DM Foxacare says you are, I have no doubt. Thank you. Your faith is moving. And we're gonna keep this area flat here so that we can start modeling a bit of the neck. A bit of the neck, since the head is going to be its own separate model for the most part. There we go. How are I moving up and down? Oh, are you asking how I'm panning around the view like so? Basically, moving the model like such. I use the middle mouse wheel, and I push it down into the mouse in order to start panning it around like this. However, I use the gizmo up here to orient myself to an orthographic view like the front, the back, left and right, up and down, etc. In order to start shifting it like this, I'm holding Shift and the middle mouse button, and I am panning the model up by clicking and dragging, as you would. Left and right. Jeremy Curtis asks, what program are you using? This is Blender, a freeware software. It's a freeware modeling and animation program that's been developed for a long time. I started using Blender technically sometime during 2017, and then I just started moving on from there. I moved on to using 3ds Max for a lot of my college animation projects, and then, well, I moved back to Blender because Blender is freeware, and I much prefer using it. I don't much like the look of these two faces. I'm gonna merge them together. Of course, that gives us something that we don't entirely want to work with. So I'm gonna bring back that, and I'm gonna take out the knife tool, and I'm gonna cut down the side of this, like so. And everything's like crooked right now, so we're just gonna straighten it up. I just hit Shift and Spacebar to bring up this menu, and I select Move, which brings up this particular gizmo, which is something I'm very, very familiar with, considering I use those programs I just mentioned, 3ds Max and Maya. There we go. I'm gonna move these vertices out a little bit. I want to move this ring right here down, because I just think that it looks a bit nicer this way. Jeremy Curtis says, oh, I see. And eventually I do kind of want to make the proportions a little bit more exaggerated in some areas, like I want to add a little bit more towards the hip area here. And the bust area here is already geared towards something else. Most of it is just me wanting to see where I could improve the model in some areas. What am I doing? What was I doing? Alright. I was fixing this. I'm definitely gonna need a cut somewhere here, probably towards, this area right here. I don't know why it's structured in this particular way, but I definitely do want to fix it so that it flows a bit more naturally from the upper torso down into the thighs and past the hips. I think the best way to do that would be to have it come off of this and cut it all the way down towards here. However, I'm not sure how that would work. Another way of doing it would be taking it from this line all the way up here, and then diverting it and putting it into the thigh from there. I think that would actually work a bit better. Just have it branch off from here to here. Or should I go higher? You know, this is the stuff that I tend to think about when I'm making a choice for a mesh. Let's see. Let's take a knife. I just like how I just say, oh, let's take a knife. And it is the name of the tool in Blender. And I just draw a line. And we've got a fresh few selections here that we can use to move topology around. Make it look a little bit more natural. At least in my estimations. My estimations being not entirely anatomically correct for obvious reasons. And when we actually get into rigging this stuff, it's gonna be awkward. Gonna bring back the view here and look at this profile and see if it needs to be corrected in any way, shape, or form. And other than like a few hairline changes here and there, it's not much. Oh, that's gonna merge into the other one later. Arg. And this is just gonna be changed into a boot later anyway, so I don't care too much about that. I'm gonna have to move these vertices forward into the mesh as well. Aether Feather says, me seeing the right after I felt like trying earlier today but gave up. I'm terribly sorry. Yeah, you kind of need like a pair of these vertices right next to each other so that it doesn't have this awkward line projecting you out from the very middle of your mesh. So if I turn off the editing mesh for a second and just pan around, you can see that it goes smoothly from one half to the other without leaving behind too much of a line. And same for the front. Because I did the same thing here, which is why I kind of moved this line further in towards the mesh. Because it still needs to be curved, but it doesn't need quite so much. What am I looking for here? What's the right word? That looks okay. Betty Noir, I'm gonna try and make a scythe. It should be fun, right? 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 You know, that's actually a really, really good idea. I think after I'm done with modeling the person right now, I could fire up a different project so that I could show y'all the basics of, modeling. And what I mean by basics of modeling is box modeling. Aether feathers. It's alright, lol. Just haven't used Blender in a while and I only knew how to make square objects. I completely understand that. Aether Feather says, a scythe would be cool as hell. Yeah. A scythe is cool as heck. And depending on how complicated you want to get, can definitely be interesting. Complicated from simple box sickle to Ruby Rose's mechanical scythe. That definitely gives me mind to start on that before I start showing how to model the head. Alright. I think I'll just model the base part of the head, the very tip top of the neck. Right where this trapezoid is. It said... vertices select. Base select. Where am I going? You see, I don't know where I'm going half the time. Then I just move that in. Let's turn on the other empty so I can see it, and then we'll just correct the neck. Oof, and I'm definitely gonna have to correct it because the way that the neck's moving, these vertices definitely need to be moved more towards the center to give it more of a... symmetrical view. That was the word I was looking for. Betty Norris says, I was gonna make the ruby scythe Crescent Rose, but poorly. Yeah, Crescent Rose is a very complicated model to start with. Honest to goodness, I think that we should start by making, like, base swords before we start making mechanical moving objects, because if we start with complex mechanics, we're never gonna get anywhere because it's just gonna look too complicated. We can't wrap our minds around it quick enough to actually apply what we do know to it. Right. So I'm just gonna start moving these towards the center. That looks better. Move that there. Excuse me. No, excuse me. Jeremy Curtis, sorry, who's this Ruby Rose? Betty Nora replies, Ruby character. Jeremy Curtis replies, ah. Betty Nora says, Cinder is better, change my mind. Honestly, I actually don't know it well enough to try to change your mind on that subject, so... sorry. Aether Feather says, how are you doing, by the way? I'm doing rather well, thank you so very much for asking. Petty Noir says right-click will call menu, so I'm gonna see if they can help. Okay. I think that's a decent start to the neck, though I'm not entirely sure I'm satisfied yet. Gonna move this more towards the center. I'm also gonna do the same for this part here. Boop. Ah, there's the problem. Well, one of them. There we go. And then we'll just take this arm. All of the arm. Make sure that we aren't leaving any stray vertices behind, which we can fix later if need be. Gonna turn this back on, and we're just gonna ever so gently push the shoulder in. There we go, which actually helps make it more proportional to the rest of the model. And I leap back and forth from particular function to particular function so long as I am doing something with the model. I'm not particularly sure I like this. It still doesn't quite seem right to me for some reason. So I'll have to fix that up sometime later. Oh, hello! Hi! For what? Dinner. Oh, I'm currently streaming. I'll be there in a couple minutes. Thank you. I love you. Right. Jeremy Curtis says, to be fair, all of you probably know a lot more about animation than I do. It looks pretty complicated from here. Yeah, it's mostly knowledge divided into several tiny little containers. Because when you first open up Blender for the very first time, you are seeing stuff that, honest to goodness, looks just like a big box filled to the brim with gizmos and doodads and stuff like that, and you honestly don't know how any of this works. So you bounce around from this left-hand panel up here that basically tells you the summary of what's in your scene, called Scene Collection. Then you move down here to all the stuff that has to do with these objects, what each of them do, and then you got these tiny icons here, and you think you have absolutely no idea what these things do. When I took classes, I basically was given this gigantic box filled with tools that I don't know what they do, and then I was taught what each tiny little partition did. and I was taught it slowly, to the point where it became second nature to access those bins to gain access to what I needed. And it took years for it to become second nature. It is really building a muscle. And again, if you're just handed a big old box that is not labeled to anything that you understand, and are told, make me a car, you have no idea what you're doing. I didn't have any idea what I was doing when I first started. I saw what I wanted to do, just didn't know how to get from point A to point B. And then 3 years later, I more or less know the basics of this stuff, and I'm continuing off of it as best I can. Sish says hello, hi. Aetherfeather says, I wish I could do that. Honestly, I am still learning the basics of everything myself, and there are sometimes when things bug out and I don't know what they do. And I don't know how to, you know, fix it, so sometimes I have to start over. Jeremy Curtis, is dinner ready? Yeah. I do think that I'm going to have to take a break from streaming, at least for now. But I definitely do want to come back sometime soon to, start box modeling, so I may have just put the stream on be right back or something like that, so that I could eat dinner, and then I'll come back and we'll continue to box model. Aetherfeather says, I don't do anything because I don't want to mess up. Well, if you don't mess up, you won't learn. If you just stay here on this opening screen and you don't delete this, and you don't progress because you think you're just gonna mess up, then it's just gonna remain an empty project with nothing in it. You have to get going, you have to mess up, you have to learn to do better. Betty Nora says, the first time I opened Blender was like when I opened Photoshop for the first time, but 300 times harder. Yeah, that's fair. Betty Nora says, by the way, I'm an iMedia student. It is not really worth it unless you want to learn Photoshop, so yeah. Pretty fair assessment. Aetherfeather says, the first time I opened Blender, I was part of a video game creation club, then I left to learn to draw instead. Okay. Betty Nora says, I opened it, said there's too many big words I don't understand. Which is completely fair. Well, I am gonna go and eat dinner, and then I will be right back to start box modeling a sword for all of y'all, so that I could potentially teach at least the beginnings of box modeling if you wish to learn and understand how to do that. How does that sound? Anyways, be right back. Love y'all. Right, welcome back. Oh, excuse me. I've got a couple of things as well while I was gone. I decided I was going to get a reference for a sword. So let me just open up that particular folder. Boop, boop, boop. Swords. Zero out all these rotations. And locations. So now I can just rotate it along the Z by 90. And on X by 90. Move the location up by 1. Wrong direction. But we had the spirit. There we go. And then we just Control A. Apply all transforms. Right. Thank you, Betty Nora. Betty Nora says, I made another heart in Piskel app on Discord art tab. Excellent. I'll be sure to check it out later. Right. So which of these swords would be a good first practice sword? There's definitely one here that I used for a sword that I designed in the past, and that was this one right here for the Cleric Blade. I don't think I'll be using that for this particular example. I think that a good first example would be this sword right here. It would be a nice demonstration of how to box model a sword of this size. Move to our front orthographic view. And we should definitely rotate this on the Z. Somewhere. We should. Oh, excuse me. So sorry. Then I moved it so that it basically sits on the direct origin, so we don't have to move anything else onto it. Now, how to begin? There's definitely a method for getting started. After I take a sip of root beer. Not good for the throat, but might as well. So to begin, I'm going to hit Shift A, which will bring up this handy-dandy little menu here. And this is generally where you go to start putting down things like your mesh, your curves, and other things like empty axes or images. For the reference, like what I did over here with this reference image. It's also where you put in your lights, the camera so you can actually take a render of what you're making, speakers for some reason, and force fields for particle effects. There are a bunch here that we're not going to get into at this time. What we're going to focus on here is mesh. And here you'll get your handy-dandy things like your planes, your default cubes, your UV and icospheres, which are mainly used for spheres. And cylinders, cones, and torus. Normally with box modeling we'll start with cubes and we'll go off of there, but for this, cylinders actually might be the best. So we'll add it in. And it'll add this little menu here at the bottom left corner that I never noticed at first. I don't know if you could see it in the view. Yeah, I think the fox is blocking it out, so I think I'm going to disable the overlay for a brief moment as I demonstrate this add cylinder box here, which you can open up, and it'll have things like vertices, radius, which you can change to change the thickness of the cylinder, the depth, which changes the height, how you can fill in the caps, for example. You can have the cylinder's caps filled in by n-gons, which are basically polygons with a non-disclosed number of vertices. Or you could have them not capped at all, or triangle fan, which basically has them filled in with triangles. Gonna Control Z that until we get until we lose it entirely, apparently. Let me just bring back our cylinder so I can continue demonstrating. You'll also notice it has location and rotation, which you can basically use to just change it in this little menu here as you're putting it into the world. For now, we're going to take the vertices, the vertice count, and we'll take it down to... 8. Yeah, I think 8 would work. And the second that you click off of it, or click on something else, it will get rid of that menu permanently. And you won't be able to get it back, so make sure that whatever you bring into existence is changed in that menu before you decide to do anything to it. So I'm going to scale this down, hitting S. We'll scale things. G will move things. And R will rotate things. Very useful stuff. If you want to lock anything to a particular axis, for example, if you want to scale something up or down, you would hit S, and then you would hit Z, which will lock it to the Z-axis, so that you could move this cursor back and forth, and scale it to whatever dimensions you need. Same for the Y-axis, and the X-axis. In 3D modeling programs, X, Y, and Z are the primary directions in them. They are pretty universal. And this method of locking is useful for every other tool, like for example, G and X will lock it to the X-axis, Y for the Y-axis, and Z for the Z-axis. And now we're gonna have to zoom in so you can actually still see it. Now I'm going to hit S, Z, and scale this handle out until it fills the handle out entirely. We're basically just going to try to box model it to fit this outline. I am going to hit Alt-Z, which will make our object transparent. Just gonna make that a little bit darker so that I can actually see the model. Gonna hit this and edit. I'm going to rotate it on the Z-axis until it looks about like that, with all of these vertices relatively straightened out, and where it has the flat bits pointed towards us. Demon Fox Akira says, "Hey, sorry for going missing in action. Just finally got done with the haircut. Now I'm heading out, but wanted to admire your awesome work." Thank you so very much, Demon Fox Akira. I may not actually be doing a good job of teaching things, but I'm doing the best that I can. Now that this handle has been properly done, I think now is the time we actually get into the box modeling. I'm going to hit Tab, which will bring us into edit mode. Did I forget to turn the vignette back on? I think I did, but I don't think it hardly matters for this stream. And hitting edit mode or going to this drop-down menu over here in the top right corner, you can go into different modes such as object mode or edit mode, which we can actually get down to the vertice, edge, and polygon levels to actually start changing our model. And it has things like texture paint, weight paint, and vertex paint, which we're not going to get into here, mainly because I don't understand them myself. That or sculpt mode. I don't know what sculpt mode is. I'm gonna have to explore that on my own. Right now, we're just going to settle for the basic object mode, hitting tab, going into edit mode. Pretty darn nice. Just going to rotate this so that I can... I hate it when it does this whole thing of screwing up the rotations for no good reason. Just gonna move this in front of the reference image so that it's not stuck behind it in any way. In the orthographic views, by hitting these gizmos up here, it won't matter. Hitting tab, we're gonna change off of the vertex select by hitting 2 for edge mode, and this is the buttons on the top row, or 3, which brings us into polygon mode, which is what we're looking for. We're going to select all of these polygons right here. If you want to be fancy about it, we can hit Alt and it'll select a ring of them, but for this we're just going to hit select on all of them. Probably for the best. Gonna hit this Y to bring us back to our front view. Then I'm gonna hit G and Z so that we can actually bring it up a little bit so we can see what we're doing. Empty here. Excuse me. Am I still in it? Yeah, I'm still in edit mode. That explains everything. Gonna take the opacity up a few notches. I'm gonna hit and then select on that is edit mode. Select all of these. Demon Fox Akira says, "I know you're doing an awesome job. Most people would just say, just Google it, but you're taking the time to show them how you do it." Well, doing the best I can. Not the best teacher in the world. Betty Nor says, "Tutorials with the cutest fox, yay." Not the cutest fox, no. Demon Fox Secure says, best and cutest fox teacher ever. Oh gosh. You flatter me. Now, in order to get this little area here before we get to the guard, I'm just going to hit E to extrude, which will extrude this little piece here. And we'll just set it right here. And by doing that, it creates this set of polygons, edges, and vertexes. If we wanted to introduce more cuts like that without extruding a piece, what we would do is we would hit Ctrl R, which would create this yellow ring around the object. And by using the scroll bar, the scroll wheel I should say, we can add as many cuts as we want, or as little as we want, and then we could just do as we please. I'm going to hit right click, which will deactivate that without using the loop cut tool. Now for another interesting trick, I will hit E to extrude, but I will also hit right click again. But unlike using the loop cut tool, this one actually does keep that extrusion around. It just is overlapping with the current one. In order to reveal its existence to us, we're going to hit S to scale, and slowly bring it out. And it will bring out this flat, one-dimensional plane that the extrusion is based on. I'm going to hit Shift spacebar to get our move tool back, and then I'm going to move it down on the Z-axis just to demonstrate that it exists. Now it's looking very, very flat, so I'm going to go back to our front orthographic view, hit E to extrude, and slowly bring that down with our move tool, which will create this nice little area before the guard. That's pretty darn neat. Now for this guard, figuring out how to do it. Don't know the best way of doing it, but we're gonna get started with a basic one anyway. We're not gonna worry about all of the filigree on it. Just gonna work on making ourselves a basic guard to get this over with. Gonna hit E to extrude and right click. Gonna use our move tool to bring this all the way down to this red line here. Basically where the sword's gonna begin. I'm gonna hit 3 to get our polygon view back. Gonna hit these 2 polygons here on either side. And in order to do that, I'm basically clicking one of these polygons and holding Shift. Well, rather, I'm rotating towards the other side and then holding Shift. And then left-clicking to grab that other one so we get both at the same time. And now, I'm going to show you another useful tool that will save you, and it definitely did save me, because I didn't even know that you could do this at first. It will definitely save on a lot of headaches. Just hit Alt, and then hit E, which will bring up this menu. And what we want to select is Extrude Faces Along Normals, which will bring up this little arrow tool, and gently we're going to move this tool up, which will bring out these 2 little sections. That is pretty neat. gonna head back into vertice mode by hitting 1. Alt-C in order to get this model transparent again. Then I'm going to click and drag to grab these 2 vertices right here. Holding Shift, dragging another box to grab these vertices right here. And I'm going to use the Move tool to bring them all the way down like so, following the edge of this guard. Alt-C to make it opaque, 3 to go into polygon mode. Using middle mouse wheel push down to rotate, grab this one. Rotate, then hold Shift, and left click to grab this one. Going to front view again, hitting Alt, then E, extrude faces along normals. Drag up again. This time out all the way towards the very edge. 1 for vertex select, Alt-C to make things transparent. Click and drag to grab these 2, hold Shift. Click and drag to grab these 2 on the edges as well. And then we'll use our Move tool to bring them all the way down here. Feel free to make any adjustments as you feel need be. If you want to know how to get this Move tool, I'll just hit Shift, holding Shift, press spacebar. It'll bring up this little menu of boxes. Most of the tools are in here, but the ones that we're going to focus on are the Move, Rotate, the Scale. Sorry, the Move, the Rotate, and the Scale. And up here, the Select box, and the Cursor. We're not going to worry about the Cursor. But the Select box, the Move, the Rotate, and the Scale are all going to be used fairly regularly all throughout this. So I just hover the mouse over Move, and release, and click. Let's see here. Luna says, I wish I knew that trick. It would have saved so much time with trying to make sure that everything was aligned possible. Yeah, I did not know that extrude faces along normals was a thing until I looked it up, and trust me, it is a big lifesaver. Demon Fox Akira says, probably will watch the replay for a few tips. Have a great one, guys. See you later. See you later. Thanks for stopping by, Demon Fox Akira. Betty Noir says, Cutiefox, can you look in the meme tab? Sure. I'll look in the meme tab for a brief second. Memes. Cutiefox ASMR is the cutest fox in existence. Change my mind. Slander. It is slander. Oy vey. Right. Alt-C to bring back the opaque. And now we've got these nice little fins on either side of the... in front of the handle. Sorry, just lost my train of thought there for a second. For the rest of the card, which is fairly simple geometric object, we're going to hit 3 for polygon mode. Left click to select this side. Holding Shift. Left click to select this side. Clicking this little gizmo to bring ourselves back to the front view. Shift and pan down using Shift middle mouse wheel. Hit E to extrude. Right click. Use the Move tool to gently bring it all the way down here. And then we're just going to hit E again. Right click, Move tool, and bring it down here. Then I'm just gonna hit 1, Alt-C to make things transparent, click and drag to select these vertices here, holding Shift, clicking and dragging to grab these vertices right here, and in order to scale them both in, I'm going to hit S to scale on the X-axis, and slowly bringing these in, until they are just like that. By the end, we should have this very unique looking but fairly simple object that we can use as a handle for our sword. I'm gonna see if my phone is on full volume. It is on full volume. I'm using it to look in on the stream. Betty Noir says, it ain't slander if it's true, but it's not. Right, what was I doing again? Oh, that's right, I was making a sword. Let's see here. Going to hit 3 to go into polygon mode, and I'm going to select all of these polygons right here. Going to hit this to get into our front view. And then I am going to scroll all the way out like so, until we see the very bottom of our sword, the very tip of it. Then I'm going to hit E to extrude, right click, and use our move gizmo to bring this all the way down to about here. Just before it reaches like the tip of the sword. Now our sword has a very weird look to it. We're gonna fix that up shortly. Okay. Going to hit Control R to bring up a single one of these cuts. Left click once, and then we can move our cursor up and down to slide this cut. We're going to slide this cut and put it right here. Now, we're going to go into our orthographic views, hit Alt-C and 1 to go into our vertex select mode. And we're going to select all 4 of these vertices right here in the middle, hitting Alt-Z to actually get a proper look at our sword. We are going to scale these on the Y-axis like so. Basically making them thinner, but not too thin. We can go to our sideways view and hit Alt-Z to make sure that we are not going too far. We need our blade to be strong and flexible, but not so flexible that it will shatter. Yep, you can see that our sword is starting to take visible shape. Dragging and select to select these two, Shift, dragging to select to grab these two all the way over here. And we're going to scale and hit Y to scale directly on the Y-axis. And we're going to scale that to about the same thickness there as well. Now for this, we're going to do the same, dragging to select these two, shift, and dragging to select these two, hitting our left view, hitting S to scale, hitting Y on the Y axis, and scaling it so that it's roughly around these lines here too. Hitting Alt-Z so that we are back in regular view. And the very base of the sword is looking roughly like that. I personally would hit Alt-C, clicking and dragging all of them so that it selects all of them. Hitting S to scale on the Y-axis so that it's actually thicker. Right about there. I don't know, now it just looks a bit nicer to me. But let's go all the way down here instead. And start focusing on getting these fixed up. Dragging this, and grabbing this. And where am I? There we are. Hit S to scale, Y on the Y-axis, and we're going to scale them in so that it's actually thin right here. Click this gizmo to go to front view, drag to select these vertices, hit shift drag to select these vertices too. Left view, S to scale, Y-axis. Make them thicker right about there. Front, and for the main course, we're going to hit the box select to grab these two, hit shift to drag and select these two vertices here, and we're gonna scale these on the Y-axis until they've got razor thin edge to them. Hitting Alt-Z. Blade is thicker more towards the top than it is towards the bottom. I like that. Our sword is beginning to look like a sword. I'm going to add another loop cut with Control R, assuming that I can. Control R, click, dragging it up until it reaches about here. Here. Or here. I think here would work. So that I could hit Alt-Z, front view. Selecting these two, shift, drag to select these two. So that I can hit S to scale on Y-axis and make them razor edged as well. And then following suit with everything else too. Asahi says hi. Hi! Say our guard looks a little bit like a guard, and our sword, overall, is looking like a sword. I'm gonna hide this for just a brief moment so we can appreciate our sword. Now to finish off, we're gonna give our sword a point. Hitting 3 so that we can go into our select, and then we're gonna hit all of these bottom polygons like so. Going to our front view. Huh, it's actually a little bit thicker than our sword is meant to be. Which is alright. Basically hit S to scale on the x-axis to make it slightly thinner there. Pretty nice. Now I'm going to hit E to extrude, right-click to cancel, and then I'm going to take our move tool and move it all the way towards the bottom here. One to vertex select, Alt-C so we can go into X-frame mode. And then I'm just gonna take these little edges here. Gonna hit S to scale on the x-axis to start bringing them in. Shift, drag, S to scale, x-axis, like so. Repeating one last time to grab these. And it's not a perfect tip of our sword just yet. Let's see here, let's take these. And scale them on the y-axis so that they're about as sharp as the rest of the sword. And the same for these here. And we'll just take this lone vertice that is, just in the middle of everything. I'm gonna go into our front view and we're just going to drag it down. Gonna hit shift, select all of these vertices, and I'm just gonna move it down till it scales out pretty darn nicely. Well, not scales out, but until it looks to be an actual sword. It's not the prettiest thing in the world. It can definitely have improvements. But for a first sword, and for me, first sword in a while, which is a little bit more embarrassing, I dare say that it's pretty good. Asahi says, nice sword. Thank you so very much. It's not the best sword in the universe, but it does the job. Asahi says, you are very kind to give us the tutorial, Cutiefox. It's not, the best tutorial in the world, but I hope that it serves you well in what you seek to do. Asahi says, oh, that's the prettiest thing in the world. It is a little bit of a slap job that I did, but I think that it does a very good job in explaining the basics of box modeling. I actually started off by modeling a fork, of all things. I started with a fork and then moved on to a sword. Aetherfeather says, it is great indeed. Ugh, Betty Nora says, I'm tempted to do the change my mind with the this isn't the prettiest thing in the world. And Betty Nora says, and I'm sad I'm on phone, not PC right now. Honest to goodness, I just did the best that I could. Have I been streaming for 2 hours? I think I have been. Betty Nora says, you got lucky. How did I get lucky? Miyosaki says, you're a very creative person. I like that. And Luna says, yep. I'm not the most creative. I just sit down and do stuff. And I'm glad that I got you guys around. I'm really glad to hang out with y'all and just be able to do silly stuff like this. Now I'm just gonna turn on the overlay again. Because now I'm gonna wrap up. Betty Nora says, you got lucky I'm on phone, not PC, so I can't create the image right now. But tomorrow... Oh golly. Asahi says, ah, you are creative. Debatable. Anyways, I think now would be a good time to talk about the Patreon links, which are in the description, as well as Ko-Fi, and the Redragon affiliate link down in the description below. If you hit that link, then you can check out Redragon for all of your computer peripheral needs. By using that link, you help us out tremendously, so thank you so very much. And with that, I think that just about wraps things up in terms of the affiliates. However, I do want to read out my current Patreon members. My current patrons. A great thank you to Chroma Cake, Parched Pigeon 9, Tara Bell, Blueberry Squirtle, DFA Plays, Riri, The Goal Monster, Miss Bamboozlebat, Grey Ghost, Elisa Elena, Robot Waifu, Blood Moth, Zoe Zozo, Charlie Kelly, Chris O'Rourke, Prophecy Fulfilled, and May. Thank you so very much for all of your support. Thank you. Betty Nora says, Cutiefox is one of those people who compliments everyone but is instantly flustered with literally anything said good about them, lol. Pretty spot on, actually. Well then, I think that just about does it. Thank you, everyone, for watching. I look forward to seeing what y'all put together, and I really hope that this brief lesson was able to at least teach you a little bit of something to get started on. Thank you so very much for watching, and I hope that everyone has a wonderful day. Bye-bye.